So we're learning Auld Syne with chord C, G7, and F, but this is for the right hand. So the starting note is G with all of these ledger lines, and then you recognize middle C, right? And also pay attention to the fingering that's there because it's not evident that you have to stretch, but make sure that your C will be played with a 3. So just try your best with your ears, learning by ear, sort of, that your number 3 finger would be on G, and that after that you have a 3 on the C. Oops, sorry. There we go. So make sure you have a 3 here on that middle C, and we're starting with a low G. And then down, up, skip here to E, step down to D, and then you have a C sharp, which is this black key, back to the D, and then E to C. So far, so good? Okay, now you have to remember to switch your finger. So earlier, I should use something that you can see. Earlier, you had 5, 4, 3. I know I'm not using the fingering that's written there. I'd rather you use 5, 4, 3 on these notes going down. Because usually when you sing, should old acquaintance be forgotten, never born, right? Actually, I changed my mind, sorry. That fingering is good because it goes with your breath. See, when the words are there, it helps you with fingering a lot. There's a comma here in the words, so you're breathing. That means you're lifting your hand up and you're changing your finger. So I agree, sorry. Didn't think through with the words. So you have to lift your hand and make sure you put a 3 here on E. Okay, so let's start from there. And never brought to. And notice also that you have a C chord. Here it's just C, E, G. But those are the finger that they chose, 1, 2, 4. So let's start here on the E with 3. And then the next note is A. So the next line. Okay, now I will scroll a tiny back up because I want you to see that not just A, but they doubled it with another note below. So it's optional. You can or can delete. You can delete and not play these double notes at the bottom if you want. And you see a song that's complicated, you can double. Usually they would put the melody note on top, so you don't have to play that. But if you want to play it, well, you notice it's just C, right? It's basically C both times, these notes at the bottom. So you play the note on top and the note at the bottom. The note on top is A.
What about the
A
C
together.
sharp?
There's that chart for the C sharp. It's only good for 1 bar. Good question. So the C sharp, whenever you do see an accidental sharps or flat inside a bar, it's only good for that 1 bar. As soon as we get to this bar, the C is not sharp anymore. So this C here is natural. Any accidental is only good for 1 bar. So I would practice the right hand by dividing up sections at a time. That would be a good section because of the comma in your words, and also because you're switching your finger to 3 here. So let's start again from that 3 E. And then 1, 2, 4. 1, 2, 4. Next line, C and A together. And only then do you work on the next section. So only one chunk at a time will get your fingering correctly. So now we can start from where? From here, because that's the new phrase. Notice also they didn't put a comma, but they capitalized the word N. So that's one little phrase to practice. That same A, down to G, but double that with the C below it. And then it's E, E, C, stepping up. Now here they did not write a fingering for you. They should have, because you have a thumb here on C, and you should not put a 2, but put a 3 there. That's an important one. If you put a 2, what happens is your thumb will have to be on this black key, and we try to avoid thumb on a black key because your hand has to move in, right? So that's the difficulty in fingering. Let's start again from the beginning of this phrase. A, G with the double of C with below, and then E, E, C with your thumb. Squeeze your hand in and play the D with a 3. And that way, easily you can reach that C sharp. Okay, and that will be phrase 3. And then I'm scrolling to see not fans. Okay, so they divided up your melody into the left hand. So what do I mean by that? This phrase here goes E, D, and then next page, next line, C in the right hand. You could see that. E, D, C. But then the melody goes into the left hand. A, G, and goes back up to the right hand. C. So it's kind of confusing that this note here in the right hand is part of the melody. Then the left hand has the melody. And then you go back to the right hand for the melody. Because you know how the song goes, right? And days of old lang syne. And so that's the confusing part that you need to get. So let's scroll back up for that end. So we're going to start here from end, but because my screen cannot show you both lines unless I make it small, in which case you can't see. So let's memorize this ED, which starts on number 3. Let's just pretend we memorize that. Now I'm going to erase it. ED with 3, 2, okay? Now I'm going to scroll up so you have the next part here. Okay, so we start ED with 3, 2 in the right hand. E, D, C, and then I practice just the left hand. A, G, what I circle in brown, C, so that you know, you hear the melody. And days of old lang syne. Eventually your left hand will have 2 roles. It will have to do a chord, which is what you see here, which is basically F chord. I'm giving you the answer since you know your C and your F and your G7. That's part of your F chord, but not all the notes are written. Just the top 2 notes of your F chord. They didn't play the C because I want you to focus on and play part of the melody here in the left hand. And then here is your C chord. Yes, it is your C chord, but not all notes are there. Only the top 2 notes are there. And this is how you could read music very quickly. It's when you recognize your chord, which is a note missing. You already know your C chord, you already know your F chord. It just happens that in this song, the F chord here is just the top 2 notes, and the C chord here is just the top 2 notes. And the left hand is busy playing part of the melody as well. And that's how you read music if somebody explained it to you, right? So let's go back to the beginning, and now we'll see how the left hand is being also the chords that you're familiar with. So what is this chord here, you think, at the beginning? It is C chord. Missing is the top note, so that is just C and E. And the side-by-side note should give you a clue. Oh, that's G7 chord, but the bottom note is missing. So they're just these 2. That's also C chord, but this time we're playing the top 2 notes. And so what I do is I encourage those of you who are beginners to print this out and then put a little X like I did, but it's very faint on my scan. I put the little X where that missing note is, or like I draw in pencil the missing note, so I could see my full chord. So C chord, but only bottom two. G7 chord, but only top two. C chord, but only top two. And the next part, F chord, because that note is F. So basically, instead of playing the entire F chord, you're only playing F. But that is an F chord. This is again your C chord, but only the bottom two. And this again is your G7 chord, but only the top two. So if you've practiced, and this is why this is at a later stage in the folders, if you have practiced the other songs where I write out all the full chord for you, then you will be able to do this song by guessing the chord. And here is an F chord. They just use a different finger so that you are able to play, like I said earlier, part of the melody. So use 1-3 as written, suggested by the editor. And then this is part of the melody, but you're still having to play it with the left hand. And then you're going to play kind of C chord, but missing the bottom note. And because you're there with number 2, I would keep the same finger on that same note. So you're going to play the 2 top notes of C chord with the 2 and the 4. So if I remind again the left hand from this point, this is the 2 top notes of your F chord, but use the finger that's there, 1 and 3, F and A, and then the melody part, A, G, and then the 2 top notes of your C chord, but use these 2 fingers, E and G. So do practice that a lot, a lot, a lot. Then if we continue, you will recognize that it's, once more, just your C chord. But which note is missing? The top note. So that one back to the normal fingering for C chord. And the next part. Can you recognize this side-by-side note, what chord it is? G7. And how about this one? Missing is the top note, but it's your C chord. And then from there, you just read the notes going up, because if you haven't noticed, they are just basically moving stepwise from the bottom C to the D, to the E, to the F. And then here's a symbol that may not have been explained, DS Alfine. What is DS Alfine? DS means del signo, go back to the sign. Signo for sign. And then Alfine means, and then stop when you see fine, which in Italian means what? In Italian, fine means the end. When you see those old Italian movies, fine is at the end of the movie. So del signo fine, el fine means go back to the sign and end when it says the end in Italian. So where's the sign? The sign looks like that one. You see that little squiggly thing? That's the signo. So you're going to go back only there. And then where do you end? Right here when you see fine. On the lower, yeah, there. You end here. And that is why you have a double bar line, one thick and one thin. So you learn a lot today. You learn some symbols you haven't learned. You learn that melody can be doubled with another note at the bottom of it. And if you think it's too difficult for your hand, just delete it. Don't play. That's okay. It's just to fill out the chords more. You learn that sometimes the fingering is not written for you. That's necessary. Like I asked you to put a a 3 here, right? That's something that was kind of missing because we want to avoid the thumb on this black key. So if you put a 3 here, you put a 2 here. You've learned that songs often written out with no chord symbols for you are just made up of your C chord, F chord, and G7 chord, but just sometimes you see incomplete chords. So it's missing a note here, it's missing a note there for your G7, it's missing a note here for your C again, etc. So we went through the left hand. Then the fourth thing you learned is sometimes a song written out has your melody taken over sometimes by the left hand, like this line. This part here is with the melody, but it's played in the left hand. So left hand sometimes has two roles. It's playing part of the F chord here, then it plays part of the melody, then it's playing part of the incomplete C chord. And therefore, because you're doing all of these roles, sometimes you have to pay attention to your fingering that's written. And then here's a 2, and they don't write the fingering for you, but if you see that the G is being repeated, just keep that same finger on that same G. So sometimes you have to be flexible, despite having practiced a lot of the C, F, and G7 chord. When it's written out for you, the arrangement is made. And often, if you want to play like a fancy song, often the left hand does have to come in and learn how to play some part of the melody. So this is Auld Lang Syne in 4/4. See here just means common time, and it's the same as a time signature of 4 quarter notes in a bar. Another theory concept is that how come this first bar only has 1 beat? That happens sometimes, yes. It's called incomplete measure, incomplete bars. In music, often we begin on an upbeat. Notice that the last bar, which where you're playing Syne, this is your last bar, it only has 3 beats, not 4. Because that's the rule of incomplete measure, incomplete bars. That the last bar and the first bar adds up to 1 bar. So this is 3 beats, and that 1 beat at the beginning, that's 4 beats. Lots of theory learned, and complicated left hands. So this is coming after all of your other songs, including Happy Birthday.